Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Now, I'm hoping to be able to start the discussion with Mr. Asamoah, who is the Secretary General of the TUC. We want to get to know the mechanics of what is going to happen on Wednesday. That is, if indeed it will happen on Wednesday. What I mean is if there is any intervention, hand of God, so to speak, to stop the nationwide demonstration, which definitely has a crippling effect on industry. He's going to speak to us on the phone and tell us why they are going on the strike, on the demonstration in the first place, and why they think it's the best to do. Okay, thank you very much. I understand that I have the Secretary General of the TUC on the phone lines. Good morning and welcome to Newsfile, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Asamoah.
Good morning, sir.
Okay, I can hear you, but a bit faintly. I don't know if it is my, monitor or it is for my viewers and listeners as well. Okay.
Okay.
Good morning once again.
Good morning.
Great to have you. Now, you were supposed to have had a series of meetings with government because government called you to sit down and to see how you would be able to avoid going on a demonstration as you have declared. What happened?
Okay, since we expressed that real concern about those increases, we've met government 2 times.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time we met, government reiterated its position on why the need for the increases and the fact that, and then the usefulness of the increases to keep the economy, and also justifying the utility increases as well. Labour also stated the effects of the high increases on the face value of incomes, and also the fact that government as an employer paid public sector workers for 2016 only 10%, and also reiterated the real problems it will have consumers and then industry. And at that meeting, the fact that along the lines of this discussion, the Energy Act has been passed by Parliament, which is going to further increase, because it was the Energy Act provided, apart from the increase in fuel prices, there's an additional 10% increase that has come about as a result of the Energy Act, which is different from the 59% increase on the electricity. The law provides for another 10%, 5% for street lights, and also another 5% increase on electricity for the energy, for the utility companies. So we drew government's attention to that law in addition to what increases have been brought about. Industry also, who were also present at the meeting, the AGI and also employers, spoke at length about the effects on the high increases on industry, which in their view would only lead to government generating revenue at the expense and collapse of the industry and also the growth in the economy. So all these things were stated, and with government also represented by the Minister for Employment and also some other ministers, including Power, tried to justify them. The meeting was rescheduled for this week. We went again. In fact, when we left the first meeting, the understanding was that they were going to prepare appropriate responses to the concerns we spread. We went again, and indeed, they repeated the same thing about taking some figures, collecting some figures, and other things. And indeed, what came out was really not anything directly to solve the concerns of workers. And you remember by which time we had also expressed concern and ultimatum that if nothing is done, within that 10 days, showing what we're going to do. And the 10 days expired 3 days ago. So we had no other alternative than to begin the protestations that we stated. As we speak, we have engaged the police. We have agreed on the route as usual. And the police, otherwise, earlier we were talking about 2 days demonstration. But the police said they don't have the people to do 2-day demonstration. So we agreed to undertake the demonstration on the 20th, which is the coming Wednesday. It will be done concurrently in all the regional capitals of the country. In Accra, Tema, we'll do the demonstration in Accra as we have notified everybody.
So there will not be work on Wednesday, is that my understanding?
Normally when we go to demonstrations, we don't close workplaces. It is not a strike, it's a demonstration. So we don't close offices. We have an arrangement. And indeed, we send letters to employers. The various unions will be working out in a way that work will not suffer. It is only when we are on strike that there is stoppage of work. But even then, some sensitive areas of the economy and the people working on it, we don't carry everybody along when we undertake such activities.
I see. And you think this is enough to bring the necessary pressure, demonstration rather than a strike?
Yes, we outlined a kind of a roadmap. And then it starts with a demonstration. And we're hoping, in fact, the concentration is on the demonstration now. If nothing is heard about it and there's no attempt to resolve, the issues, then we'll push to the next line of the roadmap.
Tell us the specifics. What will prevent a strike?
Sorry?
The specifics. What will prevent a strike? What reaction from government will prevent a strike?
It's for government to respond positively to the demands that we make. That one, the utility levels, the utility prices announced by the PRC should be reduced, both water and electricity.
Water 67%, electricity 60% or so. Should be reduced to how much?
Now, in the case of electricity, it's no more 59%. As I told you, what PRC announced was 59%. Now, the Energy Act has automatically given out the opportunity for the ECG to add another 10%. And that is why prepaid people are complaining.
Okay.
If you are not careful, you would think that it is 59%. It is now almost around 70%. And indeed, ECG considered at a meeting that they have implemented what is provided for in the law.
Okay, so my question
is... in addition to what PRC announced.
So my question is 70% say for electricity and then water 67%. What are the levels of reduction that are the best for TUC?
Indeed, with all those engagements that we had with both PRC, we gave some range to which we'll be able to consider. And we're talking about 50% in all cases.
All right.
That is 50% in electricity and 50% also in water.
That is what is acceptable for you.
Yes, that is what is acceptable for us.
Okay. Now, part of your reason is also the petroleum price hikes. Is that correct?
Yes, that is the petroleum price hike is the second demand. We are asking for withdrawal of that law. Sincerely, I am not a lawyer. We sat down with our legal people and we looked at the law itself. And the law, in real sense, it's quite unclear. In some areas, as things are not defined properly. And then the fear is that several other increases are going to come about as a result of this law. And we thought that the law will have to be looked at the second time. So we are asking for the withdrawal of that law as the second demand. Reduction in utilities and also withdrawal of that law.
But we understand that the fuel prices are dictated by world market price of crude. Of course, we know that Brent crude has recorded the lowest in about, we are told in about 11 years, it has recorded the lowest, what do you call it, price. I want to know, we have been told also that sometime maybe next week, we're going to have petroleum prices come down. Is that reassuring for you?
No, you see, in the case of Ghana, our arguments have been that whereas crude is going down, we are imposing some levies to achieve other objectives. And at the meeting, it was made clear that they needed the money to sustain the energy sector and do other things. So it does not necessarily refer to the world price of crude.
Okay.
Otherwise, the world price of crude is coming down, whereas our pump prices are going up. So in our case, it's a direct levy imposed.
Right.
We know that indirectly, if you put levies on things like fuel, it's easy to be collected. But we also know for a fact that if you increase fuel, it has a very serious repercussions on price of cost of living and everything.
Right, so, it affects everything.
I mean, the general point is that we are making reference that crude is coming down. The price of crude over the period is down.
Right.
But for this imposition of levy for other things, perhaps the fuel price would have also been, should be able to come down also in Ghana.
Interesting. When it comes to the demand for a complete or total withdrawal of the law, which brings about the hikes in the taxes of petroleum prices, what will it translate into if it is withdrawn as regards the price? As we know, the 27% increase that we've had now means that now the price of fuel moved from 12 Ghana cedis per gallon to 16 Ghana cedis per gallon. What will the withdrawal achieve?
No, but the point we're making in this era, that if you look at the increases and the way it came, when we're dealing with the issue of utilities just before Christmas, then immediately after the Christmas, we have a lot of problems with the timing, for instance. We have a lot of problems with where all things are being done at a go, given the fact that salaries and other things, had not gone along from the same level. That's our major concern. So why do you bring about another increase within the same range? And in the case of the fuel, the moment fuel prices goes up, even if transport fares don't go up, cost of living will definitely go up in various other levels.
All right.
So for us, our concern generally is the fact that so many levies are being pushed on us, and taxes here, taxes there, taxes everywhere, without corresponding increases in incomes in the country. Okay. And that is our major concern.
So do we understand that the new tax that imposes, the new tax on investment income and so on, and also the increase in withholding tax, these are all parts of the reasons you are taking the decision you are taking?
No, there are some taxes. Generally, withholding taxes has its own effects. What has been withdrawn, as far as I know, is the investment. When you have an investment in bank and they are raising taxes on that.
Yes, that is withdrawn.
We are talking about the general increase.
Suspended, right.
And then look at it appropriately and look at what social effects will it bring to ordinary workers and those who are even not employed.
Okay.
So generally, we are saying that it's not as if we should not be taxed. But you see, if you want to tax people to death, it's quite problematic.
Right. Government, I understand, was asking you after the last meeting to give them an opportunity for another meeting. Was that correct?
Yeah, we agreed that we are meeting again.
Okay. So on that note, I asked this question that you understand that when you started your agitation and everything else, at least you've had the tax on investment income suspended at least. That should be some good news to you. We understand that sometime next week we are going to we are most likely to have petroleum prices come down. Is that not, an indication of good faith for you to be able to hold on with the demonstration and continue to dialogue with government?
All these things you are saying have not been tabled or formally to us as part of the engagement. If you remember, the withdrawal of some of them were done even before we began the negotiation. Beyond that, those increases are not in any way mitigating the problem that we're talking about as far as what affects workers and the ordinary person is concerned.
Very interesting, very interesting. So Wednesday, all workers are supposed to be in red and wielding placards and wearing armbands and so on, and then demonstrating in all the regional capitals. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. All workers, both formal and informal. Workers' unions are in the informal economy, the GPRTU, market women, and indeed, the media people. And I'm inviting yourself and all the friends in the studio to join us in demonstrating. Demonstrations are, how do we call it? They are legitimate ways of expressing concern.
Absolutely, absolutely.
To those who are managing the economy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kofi Asamoah, who is the Secretary General of the Trades Union Congress. Thank you very much for your time on Newsfile.
Thank you, too.
Great. Now, let me come to the studio, and I must announce that Mrs. Esla Osu Ekofo joined us a while ago. Thank you very much for coming in. Thank you to have you again, second time after we started the show. Thank you. Now, let me pick your thoughts now about this demonstration that is starting on Wednesday. Let me start with Susan. The General Secretary of the CPP was here last week, and he said, without any equivocation, that the CPP is inviting its members to join.
Well, I think that, like the General Secretary of the TUC said, is to express a certain displeasure and to communicate that times are hard and, something must be done about it. So, CPP members are Ghanaians.
Right.
And they feel the pinch. And so, yes, we're asking them to join so that their voices will be heard, make up the numbers to show that, things are difficult, times are hard, and, the government needs to sit up and do more to ameliorate the circumstances. I think that we all, normally, even in normal times, after Christmas, January is a difficult month, even in normal times.
Right.
So when you enter into January with high taxes and, petroleum prices, utility prices times are even more difficult, and you January becomes, instead of 30 days, becomes like 300 days, So really, this is not the time to have imposed that, unless maybe you say, okay, let's just finish it and then, once and for all. But we actually are feeling the pinch, especially after this Christmas season, when we are already broke from all the Christmas,
spending,
etc., etc.
Okay.
So I think it's in order that CPP members join and, let their voices count in their numbers count in the demonstration.
Thank you. Esla, the government has admitted that we're in difficult times, but it wants Ghanaians to bear with it as it tries to navigate this, tortuous path. Why can't we be a little more patient?
Let me say good morning to your viewers and listeners, and it's a pleasure to be back. And I hope this is a sign of the times. And thanks for listening. You know what I mean.
Thank you.
If the government were completely honest with Ghanaians, it would be easy for us to understand the plight that it finds itself in. But unfortunately, over the years, it hasn't been. And a case in point is when Dr. Barima indicated that the energy crisis was not as a result of lack of generation, but it was for lack of money. We are unable to pay our bills or purchase the fuel needed to generate power. And so we should attack the problem from the right source.
The president seems to admit that during his press encounter that the next level of the difficulty about the power situation is how to fuel the...
It's not the next level. It has always been a crucial part of the problem. But when Dr. Barima said that, what did we hear? He was thoroughly insulted and vilified by the government's appointed spokespersons and officials, including those who knew that what he was saying was right. So if 2-3 years down the line, you come back and say, oops, Dr. Barima was right. And yes, it really is money. So we all have to chip in and help to pay the bills. Then how do you expect Ghanaians to accept what you're saying? Maybe if we had listened then and done what we needed to do then, we wouldn't have suffered 3-4 years of pain before being asked to endure even more pain for the problem to be resolved. So the bottom line is the government has not been honest with the people. And so it's a tough call to ask us to now help you to resolve a problem. If you fail to diagnose an illness, well, you apply the wrong solutions and the patient suffers unduly or even dies, which is what has happened to all of us here. Look at the price of crude oil on the world market. Historic lows. We're looking at people paying $1 or less for crude in other parts of the world. And yet in this country, we're paying the highest that we've ever paid. When if we had allowed the automatic adjustment formula to operate, we would also be enjoying this so-called windfall. And yet the government thinks that the people should continue to endure pain for its own incompetence and inadequacies. I think not. So I agree with the TUC that, well, unfortunately, there's only so much, I said that last week, there's only so much pain that people can endure. Yeah, the three people who say that, we are at the war stage. So there's nothing the government can say which will appease us. And so I'm also calling on everybody who's feeling the pinch to join the demonstration. And when it happens, then maybe the government will hear. It appears that's the only language they understand.
Interesting.
When the nurses went on strike, suddenly, now, when they demonstrated in front of Flagstaff House, suddenly now it is possible for them to be employed. The only language the government understands is demonstrations and strikes. So bring it on.
Clara, do you find that demonstrations and strikes are the solutions to the problems that we currently have?
Okay, let me first say good morning to your viewers and listeners, and then happy New Year to all Ghanaians. I wish all of us the best this 2016.
Great.
Now, to talk about the issue of demonstrations and strikes, I will say that I do acknowledge that the TUC does have strong basis to be displeased about the levies and the taxes. But are demonstrations and strikes the way out? I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't say so if let me give a perfect case scenario. Properly, if we're running everything properly, I would expect that government and organized labor would first talk. So there should be opportunity for dialogue. There should be opportunity for negotiation. And it is only when all of these fail that we may talk about strikes. Demonstrations, I don't know whether demonstrations would achieve what negotiations did not achieve. But I do recognize that we seem to have a deficit in the area of negotiation. I do not think that either from the government side or from organized labor sides probably have, let me say, negotiators who could discuss the issues and be able to find solutions. But to always go this way, I don't think we are doing ourselves a favor if all the time the only way we know how to solve problems is to demonstrate and to go on strike. So at the end of the day, I think it is incumbent on all of us that we learn how to dialogue, not just for this, but generally as a country, that we learn how to dialogue, we learn how to understand what we are looking for and be able to negotiate and get exactly what we're looking for. Demonstrations, I don't know, but like I said, the TUC does have strong basis to be displeased about the current state of affairs.
Wow. Joyce, it's necessary to now go on a demonstration or to escalate that to a strike. That's what I hear Clara say, even though they may not be the perfect solutions. But we seem to have gotten to that point. And Esla says we've gotten to the war point. Interesting.
Well, good morning to your viewers, and Happy New Year to everybody, being my first time on the show this year.
Thank you.
I think that basically Mr. Kojo Asamoah is a seasoned trade unionist. He's actually been at the helm of affairs at the trades union for quite some time. I believe that for many, many years, in times past, even presently, there have been several opportunities for engagement between the trade unions and, of course, government, who is basically the largest employer, as we all know. I do agree with you that even our Constitution, of course, together with the Labour Act, actually grants us all the right to demonstrate because we want to put pressure for our interests to be served. But I also believe that each time we go to the negotiation table, we give and we take. So there are times when government would agree to some of the requests being made, and there are other times when, for many reasons that probably most of us know, government will want to stand its ground. I believe that Wednesday is way off. A day in politics is actually a very, very long time, and I'm sure that even as we go along, there is still some engagement going on, and hopefully we'll be able to reach some modicum of peace or a resolution of all these matters before Wednesday. Let me come back now to issues to do with whether or not government has been honest or dishonest in its dealings with the country. I must confess that in times past and for the last 3 years, nothing has consumed the attention of this government more than power generation and power supply and issues attendant to same. Let's all recall that the hydropower that we all depended on has actually come under strong challenges, not just because we haven't managed that aspect well, but because, one, climate change itself has affected water levels in our part of the country. In times past, the Bui Dam was actually built to augment the Akosombo Dam. All of these things have not been able to support our power generation. Our population itself has grown hugely over the last few years. What has remained the challenge is that we have all, as a people, not worked hard enough or quick enough to support the hydropower that we had hitherto been dependent on. Presently, the times have changed. When all these challenges started, we actually went into an agreement with the West African gas pipeline for the supply of gas. Ghana has since developed its own gas facilities because we have actually also entered a new system where we are now generating power more thermally than what we had actually been used to in the past. What we're doing now also has called into place other independent power producers, a subject matter that we had actually never dealt with before. We have had to go round the mill to find solutions to this inadequate power supply and generation problems. I have seen several data that have been shared by government and the public at large. Presently, when you look even within Africa, Ghana still pays a lot less than most of our neighboring countries for power and for other utilities. Indeed, we have actually gotten used to the fact that we have always had the dams to depend on. In times past, we were actually even exporting some of this power.
You're not justifying these increases.
So I'm just explaining to you why these increases have come about. What we tried to do last year was to engage the public on how we're going to go about this new issue which confronts us, whether we wanted to pay more for power generation. I'm sure we all recall this debate went on for quite some time. Conclusions have been made, and we have arrived at the point where we all believe largely, and I think Kojo Asamoah himself did not say that there was no justification for some increments, but he is talking about the level of those increments. And this utility discussion came out late last year about increments to water and electricity, which were actually published by the PURC. Even a citizen had cause to go to court at the time to ask them to relent on the increments. we have been in negotiations all these months. In terms of whether or not government has been forthcoming, I'm sure a lot has been said about that already. And even coming down to where we are now, where this energy sector levy was actually passed, was all born out of consultation. Listen, the mores of the day are mostly to do with power generation and lack of it. We all know that power drives this economy. The industries, all of them are struggling because of this inability to generate adequate power to meet supply or demand.
What do you see? Is government going to really look at reducing them as they demand 50% for the utilities, withdrawing the petroleum one completely and the taxes as well? Is government going to listen to that? Is government thinking about that, or to rather give them some increases in salaries?
Well, I believe that late last year, a certain increment in salary had already been agreed with the Trades Union Congress. So I think we've moved from there. And at the time, they agreed on the 10% increment. But of course, in the light of recent events, people have realized that it actually wipes away the benefits that employees made from that increment. Government is a listening government. And as I indicated when I started, the president himself actually expressed worry about the austere measures that we've had to all endure as a result of these changes to things that we had actually been accustomed to and used to in times past. That the new challenges now is for power generation. And this has been going on for quite some time. As I said earlier, negotiations are still going on. It is early days yet. So I believe that if we all agree that, one, we accept that there must be some increment, yes. The question now is the levels. But when it comes to the legislation, this is a legislation that has gone through parliamentary approval. Even rescinding it or going backwards will require other processes other than you and I have control over. The way forward, I think, is for us to continue.
Well, some of it doesn't look like there's any difficulty. Government decided to suspend
so that answers your question that government is indeed listening.
Yeah, without any difficulty. You
government
were
is
talking about
indeed
the
listening.
difficulties that will come.
And I've heard the challenges that have actually come up as a result of that decision. But yes, it's a whole process. And as I said, we will continue with the engagement. And government itself is not oblivious to these challenges that everybody is talking about. And His Excellency, the President himself, was the first to admit that times are indeed challenging. And we know that under this country, demonstrations have actually been taking place for many, many years. This is not new. I would want to believe that we will carry on with the negotiations and that we will reach some amicable resolution to this matter, and that we will, because look, this demonstration is actually going to even affect our productivity levels even more. So it is something we all do not envisage or anticipate.
Okay.
So I'm hopeful that cool heads will prevail and that eventually both sides will come to a certain modicum.
Thank you very much. These were supposed to be your preliminary comments on the labor agitations.